Hello and welcome. Today on the show, we're going to be hitting you with a little squeeze play, Bertman's Ballpark Mustard. We are delighted that you are here with us today, and we thank you for listening. This is Soft Spoken.
And we're back. This is Soft Spoken. We are the podcast that details your favorite sauces, condiments, and dips. We wanted to give you a special welcome back. This is our first episode that we are recording in 2021. We had a little bit of a lag there because we record a little bit in advance. So the episode that came out last week, we actually recorded in 2020. So this is our official, we can all say that we've survived into 2021 and we don't have to knock on wood. I'm here. I'm your host, Adam. And I'm joined here today with my co-host, Tori.
Hello. Happy New Year to you. Of course, yes, my name is Tori. Thank you for listening. As always, and to my right, the staple of Soft Spoken, the glue that binds us all together, of course, our friend, Eric.
Hey now, that's quite the entrance. I think I'm just glad I made it into 2021. I'm sure everyone else is. We survived the dumpster fire crisis of 2020.
Are you saying that you're sure that we're glad you made it? Is that what you're saying?
I'm delighted.
Yeah.
The podcast would have a harder time if we didn't have your house to record in, so I will say that would be a bit of an impediment. I wanted to mention here at the beginning that if you guys, if you enjoy listening to us in this new year and you want to continue to do that and you want to help us out a little bit, the best way to do that right now is to go on to like an iTunes. Specifically, iTunes is good because they have a platform where you can both rate us on like a star rating and also leave us a written review, which really kind of helps us get more awareness, move us up in the rankings, and reach more listeners, which then allows us to continue kind of doing this for you guys. And we really enjoy doing that, so we appreciate your support if you can do that for us. How was your week, Eric?
Adam, my week has been good. It's been, vacation and drinking and having fun with friends, and the New Year's was great. Had a good time.
Yeah, that was true. We were talking a little bit before the show started. We actually all got we had a very small little gathering. We got together briefly on New Year's Eve with the three of us and then a couple others. Two of us are lady friends, and you, Eric, you're a man friend. Not in a sexual way.
Our other friend Adam joined us for our
other Adam, not me.
Our New Year's celebration. We got to get together, have some good food, a very cheese-centric one. I think they were trying to kill me.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. We did feature dairy heavily prominently in the menu.
I think it'd be silly not to.
To me, when I think of like Christmas and eating and stuff like that, one of the things I think of is, for me personally, I like a good dark beer. I like some cheese. I like some like beef jerky, maybe some meatballs, vinegar, pickles, and I just like that kind of snack food to nosh on, kind of continuously, grazing almost like a cow.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's definitely the best way to have. Anytime you have a bunch of friends together or a family gathering, you just graze your way through it. You just, little nibble here, little nibble there. Lots of sauces to help it all go down. And
I know we kind of talked about, like, one of the things I like doing personally is I like my vacations to be long enough where I kind of lose track of what day it is,
Yes.
To me, it's not really a vacation if I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm off for Thursday and Friday, but I have to go back on Monday. That's a long weekend. I really need to, be able to solidly forget what day it is. And I think you'd kind of mentioned something along those lines, too, there, Tori.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the week between Christmas and New Year's, for me, is wonderful. I think there's a song, it's the most wonderful time of the year, and my man hits it on the head. It is. The whole week I'm either nursing a hangover or in the process of getting drunk and enjoying that thoroughly. Yeah, I mean, to your point, to everyone's point, it's a week-long haze just full of cheese and beer and eggnog and just heavy, rich foods and a lot of really good beer. So yeah, I'm just over the moon with this time of year. I think it's terrific.
Absolutely.
That's right. Speaking of beer, gosh, when I got together with my folks, we had 3 growlers and 37 different beers that we tried and sampled over the course of 2.5 days. So we definitely had a good time.
In addition to drinking a lot of beer, we also, for our little small gathering we had, socially distance compliant, we were playing some board games, another one of our favorite little pastimes there. And we had discussed earlier that, Tori, despite all your drinking, that you were really, you put a whomping on all of us.
I was locked in. Yeah, we played 3 different games. Disagree with me if I'm wrong, but all very different games.
Very different games.
In terms of composition. One being dexterity. I don't know what you'd call the other ones, but
one was a flipping right, and the other one was
a flipping right.
That was a fear game.
Oh, is that what they call that? I would just call it like a basic party game. Like, just draw cards and as simple as it can be. I see what you're saying, but flipping right because it's on a little dry erase board.
Yeah, technically the whole genre is actually called rolling right because that's how they started. But then once the whole addition of you can have whiteboards and cards. So now it's kind of like an offshoot of rolling rights or flipping rights.
Okay, and you would be the expert on board games.
Yeah, you are the man.
Owning what did we? Oh, we did this before on a podcast. We estimated your collection, the value of your collection, to be your nerd closet in the Nerd Palace.
Oh yeah, it's at least a couple $1,000s worth of games.
Every flat surface has a board game on it.
Yeah, every shelf, every closet, sadly.
Yeah,
true. I'm actually hanging them on the walls. I got so many board games.
Wow. Are you counting your jigsaw puzzles in that?
No, I'm gonna hang that crokinole board, and I've got another one that's actually
because
that box is designed to be hung on the wall.
Oh,
yeah, kind of wild.
Because that was the other 2 games. One of them was more of a, what would you call the dragon one? Dragoon? Is that what you said it was?
Yeah, Dragoon is more of your typical, just like classic
strategy
board game. Strategy. Take that board game.
And the last one was that was a dexterity based game that we were talking about, which
Canadian game.
What was the name of that?
Called Crokinole.
That's right. And that the gist of this game is that it's basically like a circular wooden board with some concentric circles drawn on it. And you have 2 teams, one of them with black pieces and one of them with white round pieces.
Wooden discs.
Discs. Yeah. And the goal is to slide them on the board and try to get them close to the center as possible. And the opposing team is trying to knock you off the board.
In fact, they have to. The opposing team has to hit the other team's piece. Otherwise, their piece is nulled. Like, doesn't count.
Yeah, very similar as we discussed to curling. And I think Tori, you like curling, right?
I do. Yeah, I like curling. Curling and I have an interesting relationship. If I see it, I have to be very cautious because I can't watch it for longer. I give it a minute or 2. As I'm locked in. I find it to be hypnotizing. It's almost like watching darts on television. You ever watch darts on television?
No, but I do watch curling.
Yeah, and it has that same type of feel to it. Where I've ice skated 3 times in my life, just to give you an idea. And I'm not an ice man, obviously. I like it hot, so that's been established. So I have no connection to curling. I have no point or reason to watch it, but it sucks me in, man. I got to watch like Olympic season. I got to avoid all the televisions because I'll just waste time.
That's pretty wild. I have a coworker who actually she curls for the Pittsburgh curling team.
I thought so.
Yeah. And I always said, I would love to see what it's about and in some way. And I don't mean it as lip service, but I've never actually gone and checked it out. So just one of these days.
Live curling. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
I'm always a big fan of watching the Olympics. That's another thing you kind of mentioned. And I like doing that, especially the winter ones, because usually it's on a vacation. I can just kind of sit there and veg my brain out. Like I said, nosh on some snacks and watch people with actual athletic ability,
Another shame of 2020, the Olympics was canceled.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of cancellations regarding sports, that's kind of a nice little segue into what we're talking about this week here. And we wanted to talk about this one specifically due to some recent controversy in the news. And I think this kind of started off a lot with, and you guys can correct me because I'm not much of a sportsman, but I believe this started off a lot with the now known as the Washington football team, formerly the Washington Redskins, and they got in a little bit of problem with their nomenclature there, being offensive to Native Americans, and more recently, the Cleveland Indians have come under fire for the same reasons, and they've decided to not only drop the traditional Chief Wahoo mascot, but also drop the entire name of Indians. And since Eric and I are both originally from vaguely near the Cleveland area, I thought it would be nice to kind of focus on this and a staple that they have.
I can't wait until the Cleveland Red team faces, the Pittsburgh Chartreuse team,
Well, I think that they discussed changing someone told me they discussed changing the name to the Cleveland Spiders. Do you guys know anything about that?
Wow.
I guess that was originally their name before they were the Cleveland Indians. Someone told me that. I
back in the day when every ball club, every baseball club was running rackets, and back in the 30s and 20s, they were all gangsters. Yeah.
Spiders. It doesn't even. I don't know. It doesn't create the ring that I would have expected it to.
Well, I know that area of Ohio. I think they had done that to kind of almost, in a perhaps problematic way. They were trying to do that to kind of play up their heritage. I know there's lots of areas in that. What do you give me that look for?
What? Indians.
Indians. Yeah, because there's
I thought you were still talking about spiders.
No, there's a lot of.
What spiders have to do with Ohio?
I know the area that I'm from was it's a Native American word originally, the name of the town, and a lot of the areas around there are Native American words, and I think they were trying to play, give some homage to their past history there. It's just it's become more problematic in this day and age. But why don't you lead us off there a little bit, Eric? We kind of were leading up to this, but why don't you lead us off with the actual sauce that we're going to be reviewing this week?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I guess we really haven't really said that yet. So in case you haven't gotten the hint, this week we are talking about Bertman's original Ballpark mustard, which is a staple of the Indians. They're currently still the Indians for a few weeks anyways, until they officially change their name to something else. And their ballpark, which I don't even know what is the name of the ballpark.
It used to be Jacobs Field. I think now it's Progressive Field. If I'm not mistaken about that.
Everything will be owned by insurance companies here.
And I think the Jacob was actually like a person, or that was his last name or something like that. But like I said, it got sold to some soulless conglomerate, obviously. So
that's right.
Absolutely.
But the reason that we're doing this sauce in particular is that, as you mentioned, this was the stadium mustard that they had, the ballpark mustard that they had in at least Cleveland stadiums, debatably in other stadiums as well. And it used to actually feature prominently on the logo. Both it would say the Cleveland Indians, and it would have actually a picture right in the center of Chief Wahoo. We looked at some older labels, and those are the ones I was familiar with. And I actually had a bit of a hard time finding this one in stores because I was so used to looking for. I purchased this in Cleveland area, and I had such a hard time finding it because I was used to looking for Chief Wahoo on the front. And they took him off first, and then they later phased out the Cleveland Indian name off the front of this logo entirely. So
I wonder, are they going to still plan to feature this sauce in the ballpark on their hot dogs?
Oh, absolutely. I think they have no intention of changing that. The only thing that the owner did issue a little bit of a statement as a bit of an apology, and he basically said, hey, because of the changes that the Cleveland Indians are making to their team mascot and name, they're going to have to do some changes to their logos, and they're also just taking this as an opportunity to kind of change all of their logos to make them more uniform. And I actually think they did a pretty good job of keeping the general feel of the label pretty similar.
You couldn't find it. Well, you knew exactly what you were looking for, and you couldn't find it.
No, I was looking very specifically for Chief Wahoo, whereas obviously that's not present anymore, and the packaging, it does not stand out from a lot of other similarly colored mustards. But what I'm saying is it does keep with this. The rest of the packaging, aside from Chief Wahoo, is relatively similar.
So it does still say Ballpark mustard on it, and it actually has a baseball between the ball and the park, which is pretty cool.
So if you look here, I just pulled up a picture of the original packaging, which we'll post on the Instagram. You can see, if you look at the new packaging compared to the old packaging, if you took out the Chief Wahoo, there would be little else to distinguish it from any other mustard on it. So that was kind of what I was getting at there. That was the actual problem I was having.
Go Tribe. I like it.
I even like the way mustard is detailed out there, and like that darker, almost like maroon kind of, and then it's got like blue on the outside and then white behind it.
Yeah, and it was kind of a distinctive logo. And my primary, I actually am not that familiar with the logo in general, because generally when I was having this, I'd be having it at the stadium. But talking about the logo there, Eric, why don't you give us a little bit of a breakdown on what we've kind of touched on, but why don't you give us a breakdown of the packaging there? This is one of the smaller bottles. They have a few different sizes.
Right, so I have in front of me here a 9-ounce bottle of Bertman Original Ballpark Mustard. It says Napa Valley Gold Medal winner. So I guess that's an award they'd gotten for their sauce. And it's got a red cap. It's like a little stout plastic kind of square-esque, a little almost like keystone shaped a little.
It is. I like that kind of trapezoidal shape, and the stiffer plastic kind of makes me think more quality to it. Like we discussed before, we like the glass bottles, and this is not a perfect substitute for that, but a respectable bottle.
Still squeezable, which is an upshot over glass.
Right, and it does seem a little bit higher quality than most labeling. I think some of that, like we talked before about the Sweet Baby Rays, and I think this is maybe a better version of that with a little better quality labels and plastic visually, I guess. It's the bottle's kind of a unique shape.
I suppose I agree with that. I mean, the labeling certainly just all typeface now. There's no branding to the Indians anymore, as we'd already discussed. There's no real logo. One thing I did forget to mention is right above Bertman, it says since 1925. So
right.
Age does mean something in this industry.
And I guess there was a little bit of a discrepancy initially as I was perusing the Wikipedia article. It had mentioned there was some sort of a feud between some Cleveland stadiums and a copycat that was trying to kind of edge their way in. But like I said, as far as I'm aware, this has been and remains to this day the stadium mustard used in the Cleveland baseball stadiums.
Very cool. Very nice. I know you guys aren't the biggest baseball fans, but does Cleveland have a particular Jacobs Field or Progressive Field or whatever it is now, but do they have a particular dish, food item that...
Well, for me in particular, I can tell you that my main draw, not being a person who's particularly into sports, my main draw, I did always like baseball, and my parents would take me there as a kid sometimes for my birthday, even though they weren't really into baseball either, or sports in general either. But the main draw for me as a kid, and remains to this day, is Dollar Dog Night.
Okay.
Yeah, I love to go there and now get some beers, hang out with my friends, and eat somewhere between 10 and 20 hot dogs because they're small and they're wrapped in tin foil. And the main draw is that you can squeeze out as much of this mustard as you want from the pump onto it.
Oh, rock on.
So is this from like one of those like vendors going up the aisles with it though? Is he like, handing you out and then like...
all of the above. Usually I'll go out and get them because I like to go dress them up before I bring them back. And sometimes I'll grab a couple beers for, $10, $20 a pop for a beer.
Yeah.
So that's how they get you. It's the salty hot dogs with that stadium mustard. Then they get you on the beer.
Oh, the entrance tickets aren't exactly free either.
Actually, the thing about the Cleveland Indians games is that generally I think the prices are pretty reasonable compared to a lot of, major league sports in general. I've only been to one football game in my life, professional NFL football, and I remember that cost a small fortune. I think the baseball is pretty reasonable.
As far as professional sports go, I have to agree. Yeah, you're right on the ballpoint, as they say on that one.
Is that what they say?
A ballpoint pen? What?
You're right on the ballpoint.
Hit the nail on the head. How's that sound?
Yeah, there you go. That
right on the ballpoint.
Yeah.
I'll coin that phrase.
Yeah, we'll try. Now I went to a hockey game. That cost a fortune, too. And yeah, the beers are absolutely outrageous.
Yeah.
What about in Pittsburgh, Tori? Can you speak to that? Are the Pirates games, are those similar to that?
Oh, they're very reasonable, yeah. When I would go, I would either sit in one of two places in section 125, I think it's on the third base line, or in general admission, in the bleachers, left field loonies. And yeah, it's a ball. It's a blast. One guy's crazier than the next and screaming louder than the next. And it gets pretty wild. I mean, when you're a Pirates fan, there's certain things that you just need to just know. There's certain things that you need to know moving into every spring. It's a joke. It's almost it's a trite effort. It's an effort in futility. And if you have that in your brain going into April, it makes the season a lot easier to bear. If you go in with any kind of hope, they will be dashed.
I mean, the Pirates have been notoriously, as you're alluding to here, pretty one of the lower
piss poor.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. We'll just say it.
For about the past 25 years. Yeah, they haven't.
And doesn't that have a direct correlation to the price of their tickets? If they were like a winning team, you'd be paying a lot more
absolutely.
to get into.
Yeah, I mean, for years, the only times they had sellout crowds is for fireworks night or when Ron Bon Bovey came to town and put on a show after the game. I mean, it's just silly, So when you go in with the mindset of, hey, I'm going to get trash drunk. I'm going to hang out in the hot sun, the river, the skyline. It's all nice. Maybe see a couple good plays. If you go in with that mindset, you have a winner every time, regardless of how those bums on the field do.
When I was going to college, they would have student ticket nights. I think they were like, they were stupid cheap. It was either $10 or $20 to get in for, to watch the game. And as a student, I never actually went, but I knew they always advertised the tickets. And I thought, that sounds pretty cheap.
Yeah, it's a good time. If it's a nice day, really great way to fill a couple of hours. And to answer your point, the much belabored point, yeah, they're pretty reasonable. General admission seats, at least when I was going, maybe 16, anywhere between 16, $20. I mean,
and
you're sitting on a hard metal bleacher with no back. I mean, so you're getting what you pay for.
Well, that's what the beer's for too.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Makes it more comfortable.
You get,
I was wondering, like I had mentioned earlier, I like to go when they have the dollar dogs. Did they do something similar like that in Pittsburgh?
There was all-you-can-eat seats for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, they were behind right field. And yeah, there was all-you-can-eat seats. There was a whole section. And you had to get up. They didn't have the
vendors,
vendor fellows. There was very particular, I guess, storefronts you'd call them. In the stadium, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
And that's when you would get. There was free popcorn, dogs.
They had kibasi and pierogies, right? And that's
no, at least not in the freebie section. I'm sure you can get Mrs. T's pierogies because they have the pierogi race.
Okay.
I didn't know that they had a pierogi race.
Yeah, they have a pierogi race. Yeah, they have 4 people with 4 mascots dress up. I forget. Oliver Onion is one of them. Yeah, it's these.
Sounds adorable.
Oh, it is. And it's the pierogi. So sometimes I'll have where the kiddos will get a little stuffed pierogi. On Sundays. For family day for the Buccos. But
here I was being a smartass.
No, Mrs. T's is very heavily represented at PNC Park. They're trying to make a funny, but the all-you-can-eat seats are probably the closest equivalent thing to the dollar dog nights at Jacobs Field. Progressive Field, whatever the hell's called.
There's probably a lot of people outside of Pittsburgh that don't know that Pittsburgh is. They know. People, they probably know about Pittsburgh. They think of it as a steel city, and they probably, they have their mindsets about that, from the 1930s. And what probably a lot of people don't realize about Pittsburgh is that there's a strong kind of like German, Polish influence in the city.
Absolutely.
And I think there's people outside of Pittsburgh that probably don't even know what a pierogi is.
I think that's fair to say.
For those who don't know, a pierogi is basically like a clam-shaped noodle filled with basically mashed potatoes. Is that the fairest way to put it?
Yeah, I think, and that's probably the blandest definition. I mean, because you can get pretty creative. I've seen it with jalapeno, bacon, in a whole number of things, sweet, savory, you name it.
Right, but that's kind of like the general gist of it. Is they can either be kind of like, and they're basically like just a noodle with mashed potatoes and flavoring, like you said,
butter and onion. Yeah,
you can fry them. Some people do them to the point where they're kind of crispy almost. Sometimes they're more like a boiled kind of texture.
Yeah.
But I know you're not a fan of pierogies, Tori. We may have discussed that before. I'm quite a fan of them, though.
Think of a dumpling. I think would probably be
yeah, exactly, like a Chinese dumpling, a steamed dumpling kind of thing, almost like that, but not meat. It's more
but they can
starch.
be.
Yeah, they can be.
Yeah, but I think there's usually potato in there too, right?
Oh, for sure.
There's not just meat like a dumpling. I don't want people to think it's like a ground patty in there.
Or a very large gnocchi, I think, would also be a good.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Yeah. I just mean modern day pierogies have gotten a little more adventurous to the point where they're being almost indistinguishable from a dumpling, really. Because I've seen an all meat version from our wonderful Pierogi Plus.
Pierogies Plus, yeah.
The good old ladies there that make them there on McKees Rocks and been making them for the last 100 years.
But that's kind of debatable too, because that gets into, there's a big thing on the internet where you have things that are, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this war, but there's grilled cheeses and then there's melts. And by definition, a grilled cheese should only be bread and cheese. And if you start putting bacon in it or, turkey or like a slice of tomato, that makes it a melt. And there's people on the internet who feel very strongly about this.
Can I reveal to you a third position?
Okay. Don't care.
That usually is my take on things. Yeah, typically. But with this whole sandwich grilled cheese, let me riddle you this, Batman. You throw meat on a grilled cheese sandwich, in my opinion, that's called a frizzle, a ham frizzle.
Where does a panini fall in this?
Well, paninis have the lines on them, right? Like a press.
Grill. Yeah, okay, pressed.
That in my fevered imagination is the definition of a panini. A grilled cheese is just that, cheese and bread, toasted, fried. Pan on a pan. Okay. But you slap maybe some turkey, some ham.
All right.
That's what's called a frizzle, dude.
Frizzle. Where did that?
I've never heard
from?
of this before.
Yeah, I've never heard of it either.
A frizz.
Is this something your mom made up, or is this legitimate?
No, this is real. I mean, I don't know if a restaurant by the name of Billy's made this up. Billy's is, of course, long gone. But for lunch, they had a lunch special. You go and get ham. It was basically a hot ham and cheese, but they called it a frizzle. And in my mind, it's a frizzle.
That's fascinating.
You guys listeners can chime in, and maybe someone else has heard of it being called. I've never heard that before. But
it's typically lunch meat,
Yeah. Okay.
Now, what if you build a sandwich using 2 grilled cheeses?
I've heard of that.
Bread?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's out on the West
called
Coast, right?
Fucking disgusting.
Give it a spin, bro.
It's awesome.
I mean, I'm a lover of sandwiches and carbohydrates in general, but that's just too much for me.
You slap a burger patty on there?
It's the same thing with people who make the donuts on burgers and shit, and I just, it doesn't do it for me.
It is I think it's an Oregon thing, somewhere in Oregon.
I
just know it's been done.
Yeah, I think that's...
You're talking
maybe
to a
Portland.
lactose intolerant guy here.
Yeah, right. Maybe Portland, Oregon.
So let's get back to this. We
got
way
off
off
quite
track
the
here. I don't
tangent.
even know how we
boy.
got off that far off track.
Wowee.
Oh, with the pierogies, that's what it was. But kind of getting back to that.
Well, hey, this would be good on a grilled cheese.
Maybe.
I don't know, man.
Depends on.
Good
I don't think
anything.
with just cheese. I don't know if that would be good.
Good with anything.
Anything.
Just about. This sauce is awesome.
I would definitely dunk a block of cheese. Like that cheese plate we had at...
Yeah, okay, yeah, I would do that.
I would
Even I would do that.
absolutely be
Absolutely.
dunking.
I do like cheese and mustard. Yeah, that's
Oh,
a good
yeah.
combination. I like some meat on there too, but I'm okay with just the cheese.
And I'll throw a pretzel in there. Ooh,
Throw some beer in
you
me.
got me. I'll love you forever.
Now, we tried this mustard this week on some, I think they're Hillshire Farms Little Smokies, which I love to begin with, the little Smokies.
Yeah,
They're
they are
little
delicious.
miniature little hot dog
Like
things.
the Vienna sausage, maybe.
Yeah, I think they're a little higher production value than that. But yeah, very similar in appearance. They're not canned, they come in a package, and we threw them in the oven for 10 minutes or so. I wanted to kind of replicate the idea of a hot dog. Give us something comparable.
It worked great. It was very, very delicious.
Yeah, they were excellent. I have nothing but good things to say today. So,
But yeah, like a pretzel. Pretzels are big here in Pittsburgh too. Actually, that's
Yeah.
another
Right.
Pittsburgh
that's a big
thing.
German thing. Yeah.
German thing. That's true. I'd never seen the since it's also the New Year episode essentially. I had never seen the New Year pretzels before until I came to Pittsburgh.
Oh, the cake. Yeah.
Yeah, the cake. That's clearly a Pittsburgh thing.
I don't
Yeah.
know what you're talking about.
There's a cake that's made. It's I would say probably close to a coffee cake if I were to describe it in,
Okay.
in cake terms. But it's in the shape of a pretzel, and it's an old German thing where the New Year's ending, old and new, everything is a loop and circular and all that. That's what it's it's harkening back to.
Okay.
Now, that's funny. I always saw them at the store, and I never realized it was a cake. I thought that was just really like a pretzel that they threw a bunch of like sugar and frosting on top of.
Yeah,
And I'm
it's
like,
it's like a coffee cake.
that makes more sense.
Yeah, and it's I guess depending on where you get it, I'm sure there's good ones and bad ones, but that's a pretty common.
I see them at
thing
Shop
around
and Save every year in Giant Eagle,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, that's weird.
here. It's the thing you grab if you're going to a New Year's Eve party. You don't know what to get. Just grab
Right.
grab a pretzel cake. You'll be
Something
fine.
to be polite.
Yeah.
That thing that you bring to be polite that no one eats, and then here, throw this away for me.
I'd be eating it. Put a pot of coffee on. I'll eat it.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Just had to make that comment since it's New Year's.
Yeah,
and
we're really
since we're-
hammering on this Pittsburgh stuff. I love it. I feel as if I can actually provide value.
No, I think that's good. I think people like to hear about, regional stuff. That's a part of the problem with a lot of the media that people get, I think, in general, is very heavily oriented to West Coast America. So, like, a lot of people think that we're walking around, hey, bro, hang loose, dude,
Gnarly.
California shit, because that's where all the movies are made and all the, mass production media is all West Coast. So I think
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and say that people like hearing about Pittsburgh stuff, something a little closer to the East Coast / maybe Midwest culture in Western Pennsylvania.
Right.
So to pull it back to Cleveland, Central America, kind of.
Actual Midwest.
An
Actual
inferior
Midwest.
city. I'm teasing. I really have nothing against
Wow.
Cleveland. No, I really don't.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I was going to mention this earlier, but the one thing that, Cleveland is, in my mind, Cleveland is almost exclusively known for bad things.
Right. Yeah.
And especially in addition to the beer thing, I'd mentioned the dollar dogs. One time in Cleveland, they had tried a dollar beer night.
Oh, I remember this story at the football game.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
basically had to close the stadium down for rioting that had poured onto the field, and they elected to never do that ever again.
And next week they had plastic bottles because if my memory
Yeah.
serves, they had glass bottles, and it was
Yeah.
just pandemonium.
Exactly. Another time in Cleveland, I believe there was some kind of event where everyone in Cleveland released balloons at the same time, which then all came down and polluted the rivers.
Oh,
The
boy.
rivers that had famously caught on fire
Yeah, that's a couple of
from
times now.
pollution. So,
Couple times, yeah, twice now.
Boy, for water to catch on fire, you really got to be in a bad way.
yeah. And well, that was the water that, I don't know about you, Eric, but that was the water that I swam in as a kid in Lake Erie. So
Yeah,
not in the
okay.
river, but
Yeah, I didn't swim in Lake Erie.
they would frequently close it down for pollution levels being too high and the beaches were closed. So
Wow.
Explains why you are the way you are. But
probably
what do you think of this sauce?
it'll
here,
explain
Adam?
the cancers I get in 20 years. What'd you say?
I was gonna say, but what do you think of this sauce instead of talking about a Cleveland bash in here. And oddly enough, though, while we were on the topic of Cleveland and their beer, Great Lakes Brewery is out of Cleveland, and they make a sauce in conjunction with Bertman's.
Oh.
And they make a Great Lakes Brewing Company beer mustard. So
yeah, we're looking at the website earlier. That was the first I had learned of that, and it says they use the Great Lakes Dortmunder Gold Lager, which
that's good beer.
It's a good beer.
Yeah.
I blew you away with that one too, didn't I?
I am surprised you to say that, but that is a good beer. I'm glad that you like it.
Great Lakes makes a number of good beers, and that's another tradition I have around this time of the year is to get a pack of their Christmas ale. If you guys are familiar with that, it's a kind of a sweeter beer. It's a little bit on the pricey side, but it's got a pretty potent punch as far as alcohol goes, and it goes down easy, and they are dangerous to drink a few of those at a time.
Oh boy, man! All this talk about booze. I'm sorry I didn't bring over my beer today.
But while we're on the website here, we can talk about some of their other offerings. They have the Ballpark mustard that we're tasting tonight, and then as Eric mentioned, they also have the Great Lakes beer mustard, which I think would be a fun choice. I don't think I've seen that in stores.
I haven't either.
And then they also seem to have a horseradish sauce, which I really like the packaging appearance on that. It's kind of like an orange label. I find that charming. We can maybe try that one at some point too, later down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I vote for the yay 100%.
Yeah, horseradish is okay.
But yeah, let's go ahead. We all been pretty clear on our feelings for this. Like I said, this is something that harkens back to my nostalgic childhood. And to be honest, actually, I wasn't a huge fan of this mustard in particular when I was a kid. Like I'd like to try a little bit of it on a hot dog, but I actually preferred the bright orange mustard when I was a kid. Whereas
you mean
now,
bright yellow?
Yeah, the bright, whatever.
That's the toxic mustard.
Colors are hard. Yeah, it was made with Lake Erie water.
Yeah, it's OSHA approved mustard.
Right. But they had to switch to orange mustard after the beer incident. But no, the bright yellow mustard I used to prefer. Whereas now this is a requisite when I go to a stadium, so I'm already predisposed to like it. And when I busted it out, I think we all immediately knew how we were going to feel about this. But
absolutely.
No, kind of getting into a little bit of like...
I didn't actually. I came into this... Well,
really?
I was scarred.
I thought you did.
Huh. I don't want to say scarred, but when I think of mustard, I think of the bright yellow mustard. What was it? French's, right? French's yellow mustard. I don't like it.
Really?
I do not like that mustard.
Really?
And so when I think of mustard, I just immediately write it off.
I got to reevaluate our friendship.
That's what I was introduced to as a child. Was like,
this is the first time hearing this.
Yeah, really,
mustard. Yeah. So it's always funny because I'm always like, oh, mustard. Okay. And then I'm like, even like the spicy brown or the Dijon, and then when I try them, I'm always like, oh yeah, that is good.
Yeah, we tried mustards before on the show.
Oh, absolutely. I like mustard now. I just don't like yellow mustard. And it's the first mustard I ever had as a child growing up. So when I hear mustard, I immediately think, ew.
I've loved mustard ever since I was a kid. Yellow. I mean, in my fridge right now at this moment, I probably have at least a dozen different types of mustard.
Nice.
And I use them just, indiscriminately. I feel like,
as you should, yeah.
They're pretty good interchangeable. That's a nice thing, too. Like, to me, ketchup, there's really only one ketchup I like. Obviously, the traditional Heinz. I'll taste out some of the variants, and sometimes that's fine. To me, I will try anything with mustard on the label of any type.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Absolutely.
Totally interchangeable. Try them on whatever, but... Well, okay, well then
as long as it's brown. I mean, again, I came into this, tasting tonight here. I looked at it, I said, okay, Ballpark mustard, so the browner color, and I'm pretty sure I've had it before because I spent some time growing up in Ohio. I gave it a shot, and it's pleasant. It's more than pleasant. It's fantastic. It really is really delicious.
And they do call this a brown mustard. It's kind of like more of a khaki tan in color. I don't know if we touched on that earlier.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, it is a lighter of the brown mustards because you can see some really dark brown mustards out there.
Yeah.
Not like coarse, like seed. I forget what they call it.
This is a finely ground. Yeah, it's not like a whole grain mustard. Is there any? Do they have anything written on the back there? Any little informational stuff at all, Eric?
It's got ingredients and, your traditional nutrition facts, and that's pretty much it. There's really not a whole lot there. The ingredients this time is going to be real quick. It's literally distilled vinegar, mustard seed, sugar, salt, and spices.
Yeah, and I think if things are under a certain percentage, they don't have to label them individually. So I would have to imagine that probably the type of mustard seed and probably the vinegar they're using and the spices in particular that they're putting in this.
Absolutely.
because and we'll get into this here. We can start talking about tasting notes, but I mean, there are definitely, this is not your standard brown mustard flavor to me. This has definitely got kind of a unique, like I could pick this out of a lineup eyes closed, you know.
Is that so?
Oh, definitely. I think so. There's some others that are close, but to me, this has that signature kind of like tang to it. And I know when I was tasting it today, you know, I was trying to be a little more impartial because obviously I know I like it, but definitely some vinegar, definitely some like earthier flavors, you know. And like I said, I'm sure there are some spices that I would love to know what's in there. The sugar, I get a little bit of that sweetness there too.
I do right off the beginning. I definitely get the sweetness, and it's mixed evenly with the vinegar, so it's almost like you said, like a tangy and sweet, and then you get like more earthy flavors after that.
If I had to like order, you know, we talked before. There's kind of like the tasting notes you get initially, and then there's some more in the middle, and then some at the end. Kind of like 3/4 of the way through there's this really interesting tang that I've never been able to really describe, which actually was like that was what I didn't like about it when I was a kid. But now that's really the hook now that gets me. It's that tang or whatever that it's got about 3/4 of the way through tasting it that I really find enjoyable.
Totally. Yeah. To me, it had a real brightness to it. Man, I'm sure that's all the vinegar's doing. But yeah, it was brightness, maybe even a little bitterness. And I don't say that in a bad way. In a very good way. You know, I like bitterness. It's terrific. I mean, now that you've mentioned that you could pick it out of a lineup, I didn't have quite the exposure to this like you Flatlander boys, Ohio boys have.
Right.
But the exposure that I did have to it is excellent, of course. So if I could pick it out of a lineup or not, boy, that intrigued me. I would like to think that I could, but I don't think I have the practice.
Exactly.
You know, but boy, that is swell. I love it.
To me, this is totally unique from those other like brown. You know, there's a whole host of other brown spicy mustards, and this one doesn't really have a lot of spice to it at all.
No,
which makes it kind of unique amongst brown mustards that there's very little like heat or spice to it, I think.
I was going to say, even like as you were saying, the flavor profile, how it hits you in the front and then the middle and then the back end, it has almost like a crisp and clean almost finish to it. I don't think it really lingers per se too much. It's good.
I think there is some linger. If you really load that up on a dog, I know, and I get a big bite of it, it does stick around for a second.
For a second, but that's just it. I mean, it's not like a hot sauce where like your mouth's on fire for minutes. You know, it's not spicy. No. It's not even, and even some mustards can be very spicy. Or even I think horseradish can be a little bit more like lasting. Like 30 seconds later, you're still
a little bit in your sinuses.
In your sinuses or the back of your throat. Tasting that horseradish. Where this just doesn't have any of that for you. It really does. Within 30 seconds of eating, swallowing, it's pretty much you're ready for a next bite.
Perchancey, would you describe it as going, gone?
Well, that would be fitting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Tori, is there a brown mustard that's local to Pittsburgh that you think this is comparative to, or something that invokes memories of, perhaps?
Boy, that is an excellent question, E. And I'm not sure if there is something as good as that. And I don't want to slam, because I would have to say that there's a manufacturer called B&L. And I think they're a Pittsburgh institution. I'm not entirely sure.
You're right.
And they have excellent sauces and dips. Their French onion dip is terrific.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, really, really good. I don't know if they make a mustard. I would be interested to find out.
They make horseradish. I do know that.
That they do. Yeah,
and sour cream.
And they make the beet and the white horseradish sour cream.
Sounds like some future episodes here.
A lot of creamy stuff, a lot of good stuff. And I know their dips are good, so I don't want to give them the bad rap, but I don't know if they make anything quite on this level here. And I don't know if it has that type of ballpark type of sponsorship or that type of connection, you know what I mean, to the PNC Park or Heinz Field or whatever it may be.
Sure. I think that relationship.
Well, Heinz Field, unique. There's your answer there.
Yeah,
I mean, the proof's right there. But
there is I did see in a grocery store in a Shop and Save, a local institution, I believe it was a Pittsburgh Pirate Stadium mustard, but I wasn't able to determine if that was official licensing or if that was just like their little kitschy thing,
Yeah.
I would like, I think, Eric, you had asked earlier, is this mustard the stadium mustard in the United States, which I don't think is the case, or is this, do other ballparks have their own local mustards that are similar to this? And that might be something fun for people to chime in with, let us know if there's, if your hometown or your local big city has their own ballpark mustard or signature sauce, I guess.
I'm sure in Wisconsin they just have the cheese pump.
That's funny.
Right.
The Brewers, I think their special is some type of like poutine.
Oh wow.
Cheese curds. In Milwaukee.
Yeah.
But if that makes sense. But you're certainly not going to find that in Miami.
else.
Yeah, right.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's one little. I think there's another one. The Royals have some type of hot dog. It's like wrapped in a pancake or something goofy. I don't know. Don't hold that to me. But
Like a crepe dog or something.
Yeah, it's something different that you wouldn't find anywhere else.
You say hot dog?
Say what?
You say hot dog?
Hot dog.
Hot dog.
Hot dog.
Okay. I was just curious. Thought I detected a little
Pittsburghese there.
little Pittsburgh coming out.
Maybe. Yeah. I can barely understand what I'm saying after 6 beers.
But did you guys have any other tasting notes other than that? I kind of chimed in with mine. I don't know if you had anything else to kind of add to that, or
I mean, I can say my
Be my guest, please,
notes
yeah.
verbatim here. Read them off to you. There was like I said, it was vinegar up front, and then I got a very good strong mustard flavor, followed by like what I was almost tasting was like almost like onion and garlic kind of in that middle. I guess when Adam was saying those earthy tones, and then I just thought it was extremely balanced, a very well balanced sauce. It's such a great flavor, but it's not too strong in any one area. It's very pleasant, very, like I said, when you're done eating it, it kind of vanishes enough but you remember how good it was. So you're like immediately like, okay, after 1 minute, you're like, I need another bite of that. Like it just keeps pulling you back in.
Yep.
And I know, Adam, you had said you got a hint of smoke from it. I don't
think I said that.
Maybe you said that before the podcast.
Maybe. Are you sure I wasn't talking about the little smokies?
But we're eating these little smokies, and I was trying to determine, was that smoke coming from
I don't think I
the
said
Smokies, or was it from the sauce? Yeah, I didn't really detect smoke.
Or was that from something that popped up into your brain out of nowhere?
Maybe.
The inner machinations of your mind are an enigma.
How about you, TG? How was your notes?
I thought it was, I'm going to beat the, whatever. I thought it was great. The brightness. I know you guys were talking about the complexity, and maybe the devil is in the details here. I know you hit the nail on the head, the FDA and their funny rules about percentages and not listing things, but there was a big talk of complexity around this table when we were trying to eat it, and I just find it surprising that there's only 5 ingredients or 6 ingredients listed there. So I think that's not a bad thing. I think to get that type of flavor across 6 ingredients is stunning.
I think it's kind of like one of those things, like how Tic Tacs I think technically have no calorie information.
They're under a gram.
Size is 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of those things like the spices they're putting in this don't have any caloric value, they don't have any nutritional value, and they're under a certain percentage. So, like you said, they just dropped them off entirely.
Yeah, don't even give a damn. But all three of us said that C word, complexity, and
yes, the C word,
complexity, the classic C word, complexity. But yeah, just to have that word thrown around with knowing there's 5 listable FDA regulated listable ingredients, I find to be commendable. Yeah, and I'd take my hat off to them. But
it's funny you should mention that, because sometimes when I'm arguing with my girlfriend and I'll say, you're being a real C word right now. You're being really complex.
You're being far too complex for me.
Yeah, sometimes the way you do things is just complex.
I'm sure it's exactly what she thinks of when you say that.
So that's not nice. We respect women in this podcast. That's our official hard stance. Anyways, moving on. That kind of... What are you drinking over there, Eric? I was wondering about that earlier.
Apple cider.
Nice.
Oh, you didn't offer any of the rest of us.
I did.
He did.
You didn't offer any to me.
I didn't. That's true.
I did want to mention specifically how I think this mustard in particular pairs so phenomenally well with like a light domestic beer. Maybe not light, but like a domestic beer.
Fair enough.
Something light in color, I guess is what I meant. Like a Pilsner type ale.
Okay.
Maybe a Dortmunder Gold. That's a lager, technically. I think it's not.
Yeah, I think it's technically a lager. Well, whatever. We're not going to get that nitpicky about it. Beer. It goes well with beer.
Yeah, I could. Boy, you know me. I'm a regular beer expert, but I would say any one of my cheap beers would go nicely with this. Hell, I would even say that would go great with a Pepsi.
I'm gonna leave the dead air on after that. I'm not gonna edit the dead air. So for the listeners, Eric and I were speechless.
I don't know. Did I miss something?
No, I just think Eric and I were thinking about that.
What did I say? I don't even remember.
Nothing. I just am not a huge. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Pepsi to begin with.
Yeah, not a huge Pepsi or Coke
And
fan. So
I
it was like
cannot see.
mustard.
I don't know.
Pepsi.
To me, this is not. I don't know. It wasn't that.
Really?
It wasn't working in my mind. I guess.
Wow.
Mustard flavors to something like sickly sweet.
Son of a bitch. Man, I thought I was really on base there. Another baseball
man.
reference. Thank
I
you.
know that was the other. That was the funniest part. Was you had that look of utter certainty on your face.
Yeah, I was. Yeah,
that
I
you
was
just
sold.
hit a home run.
Yeah.
Per se. Oh, geez. Well,
man.
That's fun.
Well, I'm
leave
sticking to
that
my
in.
guns, regardless of how funny you guys think it is. It's gospel truth to me.
Yeah, not a Pepsi fan to begin with, but that's
You guys
okay.
are
I'll let you have it.
Man, I can see myself with a pound of American cheese, a huge bag of pretzels, a big
Okay.
jar of this, and like maybe 4 or 5 Pepsis, and just go to town.
We'll just have to take
Okay.
your word for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
we're
trust
just
you.
not
I mean,
Pepsi
hey,
guys.
I'm not
Sure.
disagreeing. I wasn't disagreeing with you either. I just hadn't know how to respond to that.
Unbelievable. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
Pure silence. It was just
Dang.
deafening.
Yep.
Wow.
Yes, the fuzz in the headphones for to comfort us. Well,
Man.
on that note, Eric, would you like to lead us off with your rating on this sauce tonight?
I'd be happy to. Yeah, as we all said, we're all in agreement. We all obviously like it, so it's just going to score well. I'm probably going to give it I'm going to give it oh boy, tough. I want to say 7.5, but honestly, I think I'm going to give it an 8 just because of how, like you said, how amazing they found like that perfect ratio between their spices and like the ingredients list is so small, but the flavor is so big. So yeah, I'm going to have to give it an 8.
Outstanding.
How about you, TG?
Oh boy, I have a lot to say. I think this was just if I may, a can of corn fly ball for our baseball fan listeners out there. A little analogy for you, but yeah, I mean, so for those of you who don't know, that's the old time the grocers that keep the cans up on the top shelf.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can of corn fly ball, you'd knock the can off of the shelf, and the grocer, the clerk, or whoever would catch it. And that's a little analogy for a really easy fly ball.
Oh.
But yeah, home run. I think it's terrific. I think this is great. I know a lot of Pittsburgh natives hate on the city of Cleveland, for whatever reason. I don't know. You'll never find me hating on Cleveland. I know I made that joke before, but I certainly didn't mean it. And the reasoning why is because it is home to Bertman's mustard. I could never hate on Cleveland because of that. That mustard is just far too good. It redeems the entire city, the burning rivers, the balloons,
the beer riots.
Yeah, all the beer riots, the
You
drunken
sound like
riots.
you could get into a beer riot, though. I think you'd be
that
down
sounds
for
like
that.
my kind of game. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so it was just terrific. I really liked it.
So you give it a 6.
Oh, boy, I would give it 100 if I could. No, I'm going to give it a 10. I think it's perfect. I think it's terrific. And as a native Pittsburgher, boy, I'm a bit envious that that you Flatlander, Ohio boys can come up with something so damn delicious, and I can't share a home with it. So it was really, really good. The boys of summer are out here getting knocked out by the men of October, and the men, Team Bertman's.
Very good.
Nice.
Well, I will. You know what? Kind of a counterpoint to what you were saying there. Like I said, I'm from in the general vicinity. Cleveland was the nearest big city in my state to where I grew up. Actually, I think that probably Erie was technically closer, but a lot of people from my area claim Cleveland as their hometown because it's easier. And so I'll just say, as a Cleveland boy, to me, well, I mean, let's be perfectly clear about it. I made my choice about which city I would rather reside in, and I think that is a good indication of my feelings on the two cities in general.
Yeah, there you go. You certainly had your choice.
Yeah, I had my choice. It would have been far easier for me to move close to Cleveland, and I chose to move down to Pittsburgh. So I think that kind of tells you what I think about the cities in general. And I think as far as attraction goes, there's some interesting things in Cleveland. I don't feel like there's a lot that Cleveland has to offer over a city like Pittsburgh, but this sauce is probably a good example of something that it does. In consideration, I'm going to deduct a small portion from my rating, and the reason I'll say that is just from prior experience. I know that if I have this sauce on a hot dog or a similar item like that, there is a point when I've put too much on.
Never.
That's just my personal feelings, but I know that there's lots of sauces that, like you said, Tori, there's no point at which I wouldn't want more of that sauce on the item. Sometimes there's lots of things I look at purely as a sauce delivery tool. And to me, with this, there is a ratio where it becomes less pleasant if I add more, and for that reason, I'm going to deduct half a point and give it a 9.5 out of 10.
Ooh, nice. Okay, that's still acceptable.
Because to me, for something, if you look at it objectively for achieving its purpose, Ballpark with your friends, nostalgic all-American, dollar dog night, and a couple of beers tucked in your jacket pocket or something, man, this knocks it out of the park, if you would.
That's right.
So, I really, like I said, a longtime fan of this, and I'm happy to have it on tonight and be able to give it a stellar rating.
I guess one last interesting question is, how far does Bertman's mustard get distributed?
Yeah, their sales. They sell it on Amazon. That was one thing they pushed on their website. I don't know if that's just for expats from the Cleveland area, or if that's for, maybe there are other places that sell that and it's a thing, but yeah, I know that this is pretty prominent where I come from. Anywhere within at least, I don't know, an hour and a half from Cleveland, this is pretty common.
Oh, at least. I mean, I'm sure you can get as in, the entire state of Pennsylvania, probably New York, probably Kentucky, Tennessee.
I would imagine they sell this in a gallon container.
Wow.
And actually right on the website they do, and they also sell the dispenser pumps on the website.
Sweet. So
I would imagine that for that reason alone, probably smaller cities that don't have the, iconic sauce of their own, this is probably a go-to for them, but probably those bigger baseball cities,
Hell, even minor league clubs.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying, but probably those, if I had to guess, probably big baseball cities, like I'm going to say Boston. I would have to imagine that even being relatively close, they have to have their own sauce. I would imagine
they're not going to have Chief Wahoo in the Red Sox.
Right,
get out of here with that.
I imagine other national teams would maybe frown on that, but yeah, for smaller teams, minor league teams, other states that don't have a big of a baseball presence, I would imagine this would be a good, as good as anything else. It's tried and tested.
It's excellent.
It's on the ball point,
so good,
as we say.
It's on the ball point.
Gotta cut that.
The old slogan.
No, we're gonna leave that. I know you always want us to cut stuff to make you sound like a genius, and it's always more fun if we leave in your gaffes. So, well, I think that's pretty much gonna wrap it up this week for our review on Bertman's original Ballpark mustard. You have any kind of parting thoughts there you'd like to leave us with, Eric?
So, what a great way to start off 2021. Everyone, stay safe and healthy, and we can't wait to for you to have the opportunity to listen to us in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree any more with you. Thanks for joining us here, 2021. We're really excited about it. Hopefully you are too. It's going to be a better one. We know it. We promise. Yeah, we talked about the baseball sauce today. It was terrific. Having this Bertman's mustard, this reminds me of springtime. This reminds me of, going down to the ball yard. So I know I, for one, am excited for the spring, and hopefully you are too. Get to see some sunshine and some flowers and some birds. And thanks for joining us. And how about you? What do you got?
Yeah, well, something I didn't mention earlier, but a recent project I was working on is that we do have a little bit of a kind of an experimental website in progress. It's nothing too fancy, but if you ever want to go on and check out and see, we have on there the sauces ranked by our flavor ratings are on this website, as well as for the hot sauces, we have a heat index, if you would, like our temperature we talk about. We have a heat index of sauces on there, and as well as some show notes that break down our episode ratings, episode by episode, if you ever want to reference that. And the website is currently at saucespoken.wordpress.com. You can check on there if you ever, like I said, it was a little bit of a reference. And if you ever wanted to do something to kind of help us out and support us, as I mentioned earlier, the best thing you can do for us right now is, go on your listening platform, be that Spotify or Stitcher, or particularly if you can pop over to iTunes and give us a rating or review on there, or a follow or something. That really helps us out, reach a wider audience, and we really appreciate it. So I think that's going to wrap it up for us this week, and we thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next week with a new episode.
Uh-oh, that music can only mean one thing. Sadly, we're at the end of the show. We appreciate you listening. Why don't you send us an email on saucespoken@gmail.com. We would absolutely love to hear from you. If you're on Twitter, why don't you stop in and see us? We're at Sauce Spoken. That is at Sauce Spoken on Twitter. And finally, we like to take some goofy pictures. We throw them on Instagram. Hopefully you like them as much as we do. That is going to be Sauce Spoken Official on Instagram. And we really appreciate your time having us in your home today. Share us with your family and friends. Give us a review review or a rating if that's possible for you to do. We really appreciate your time. This is Soft Spoken. Thank you for listening.